podcast you cheer for. Sneaker business talk. It's the Soul Material Podcast.
All right, we're back again. It's the Soul Material Podcast. It's T Mark, the Street Shark,
and the OGEO himself.
All right, we're here for another episode of Sneaker Business Talk. All right, so I'm gonna kick it to the OG. Let them know what's going on, because we have to pull back some layers to a situation that's going on in the sneaker industry. Not new, but we want to talk about it because it's popping up again.
Indeed, Shark, it is officially the fourth quarter. Holiday season is upon us, and we have, again, all the releases that are coming out from all the brands. And of course, with the times that we are in with social media, there has been a big buzzword now with quote unquote backdooring. And it triggered me being an OG because the definition of backdooring, of course, has changed over time, particularly the past few years. And I wanted to peel back some layers, Shark, because what's going on is not necessarily backdooring. So similar to what we did as far as in a lot of our episodes, wanted to define what backdooring really is, what it was, and how it's being miscategorized now and what it really is at this point in time.
All right. So, and I'll just ask some rhetorical questions as we go all out, more for the audience as well, so that we can have these clarifying moments, because we're all about clarity over popularity. So that's why we're attacking this bitch, because there's, many sneaker blogs like to, regurgitate some of this information, whether it comes from a particular source or not. So we caught wind of, some bloggers wanting to say that they have integrity. So that's why they're covering it. But trust us, we have built trust with you, our audience. And this is why we do stuff like this, because it's clarity over popularity. We're not doing this for clickbait, and we're not doing it just to, we're doing it for you, so that you have more information about what's really going on, because backdooring is not new. And it's actually gotten a different connotation over time, because in the beginning, it was just accepted because of the way that businesses already operated or whatever, you know what I mean? So, like, I bet you if you had a relationship with a store owner or a boutique owner, you weren't complaining about backdoor. You could consider, stuff that just doesn't make the shelf as a backdoor, but if you had good customer service, you had good relationships, sometimes they were just saving the stuff for you. So is that a backdoor? Is that not a fair shot for everyone to get it? Well, when you were really in the culture, you had those relationships, and nobody cared that other people weren't getting, because it wasn't visible who didn't get it and who got it. You know what I mean? So, but if you had those relationships, I know the Shark and the OG both had those relationships that we could get things done. So tell us, OG, a little bit about just the background from your perspective on backdooring, and then just fast forward us to where we're at and why did this strike a nerve?
Definitely. Historically, and to all the other OGs listening to this, of course, I'm preaching to the choir, so just bear with me. But let's go ahead and really show why we're the podcast you cheer for, because it's time to have the story time. The rug is out. Sit on down, listen up, because what backdooring originally was, until all the original heads out there, you know what it was. You didn't get a shoebox. A shoe could have possibly gotten to a store a couple weeks before official release date, maybe even up to 3 weeks, maybe even a month if you were lucky. And guess what? This is what happened. You slipped a manager or assistant manager, an employee, straight cash, homie. That cash went to the shoebox. Guess what? You got your shoes with no box. When that release came, the manager or whoever was running the register that day, they will scan that box. They will pay with the cash that was in that box. And whatever was left over was their tip. And that's what it was. Then it evolved to what the Shark just talked about, to where you had relationships with folks, and when even the back door, quite frankly, it will come right outside from the stock room to you, maybe in the bag, maybe not in the bag, maybe to be discreet, maybe not. If you somewhere in the neighborhood store, people know who you were anyway, wasn't that big of a deal. And now what's going on now, Shark, is that we're not talking about guys going into a store and picking up something and just, dropping cash and calling it a day. We're talking about now with all of these buy, sell, and trade shops and so forth. We're not talking about guys just coming in with a couple of shoe boxes. What I saw defiantly on the internet was a box, and the box was clearly from a company that has used that same codes and same everything for the last 20, 25 years. I worked at these companies, 98, 99, 2000. So I get it. And we're talking about the entire box of a full size run, making it to a buy, sell, trade shop. That's not necessarily backdooring. That's what you call theft.
Well, and
we'll
just to be clear, there are, especially just referring to those images that are on the internet. I'm just going to co-sign what you just said. Those boxes are very unique. If you really worked in the stores and you know what they look like, then those are the same boxes that are coming. That's your inventory for the store. You know what I mean? But somehow that it doesn't make it out the back room. Yes, so that's the thing. And then also just to add on to one of your scenarios as well about the money in the box, sometimes you got the box, but the box didn't have the label on it.
There you go.
Because they took the box off to do what you just said, is that they rung the sale up on the release date and then scanned the barcode of the label that they ripped off. Again, trust me, that was happening. As a matter of fact, I'll tell you right now, here's a location. I'm just going to put this on your GPS. It's in the 757. It might be on a road or a drive named Tidewater. And might be a shopping center that a store that I worked in that we've talked about. Not that store, though. There was another store in that shopping center. I know you shop there. That was a franchise model. So that meant that there was a local owner that could do whatever they wanted to do. And I remember plenty of people complaining that came into the store that I was a corporate representative for, and would talk about how certain releases would show up ahead of their release, and then try to complain and then talk to me so that I could escalate things at the corporate level to, tip off some of the big brands, Nike, that people aren't abiding by your release dates. So just tell a real story, because we were there. And yes, it does exist. So I even just dropped a location on y'all. Can't tell you if it's still going on, not going to say, but I'm just, I'm just going to say that I've seen it in the past, that yes, the whole box or the label situation, just so that they can scan it later. So that's a lot of, trust going on, that they're going to keep the money and do this, and this. And what a responsibility that the stores have to actually save the money and do it right. You could still just duck and run the whole way, but it's going to catch up with you. Anyway, so enough of the side tangent. Just wanted to put a couple extra examples in there, but go ahead and keep going all the way.
And not with Shark, but just to peel back a layer, so many blogs and websites and, reels and social media talk about how ethical they are. But let's talk about what's going on right now. And I think we're probably going to be the only ones that's actually going to discuss this, because there's no way possible, Tony, that you can have a multiple size run of multiple boxes of probably the most wanted, most popular shoe to the masses right now that has not been released just yet, untouched, unmarked, and you could just take it to a buy, sell, trade shop and call that backdooring. What's going on, Tony, is that you and I have information. We have evidence. If you are from a certain area and you watch the news or read the news, this is what's going on. You have FedEx drivers who are in on the game. So what goes on in a lot of these corporate companies that are $1 million companies, as long as a manager can file a claim to say that, hey, I was supposed to get 68 boxes. Only got 64. And usually when managers know what for are missing, they know what shoe is coming out and they know what's missing, I don't say the company doesn't care. I say the company knows they're covered from an insurance standpoint. So you have a lot of FedEx drivers who know the game, and it's definitely a scheme. It's just like, almost smuggling drugs, like going through the wire into Baltimore when you are at the harbor almost. It's that sophisticated to where these guys have it, in which on their scanners and so forth, they would show they were even at the mall at a point. But the managers have to be out there and count the boxes. They're like, I'm missing 4, but I'm scanning these 4. Where are these 4 boxes? And guess what? I know it's a retro Jordan. I know it's a dunk. I know it's a foam posit. And certain managers can't take it so personal now, because they're like, okay, how far I'm going to take this, because I don't have any ownership or any kind of stock in this company. So I'm just a manager here. And as long as I get it written off and I don't get in trouble and my sales are what it is, I'm having a mad cut. That's what's going on. So I say all of that to say that a lot of these stores got to be careful, because it's all about the bottom line. And Tony, inside that stuff is stolen. It gets to a point to where you are dealing and you're hustling stolen product. There's no way some kid is coming into a buy sell trade shop with 36 pair and 3 boxes. We know the numbers. We know the size runs, identical box and everything. The boxes are untouched. The shoes are untouched. Everything's untouched. No, you're dealing with thievery at that point. And that's one thing that's not been discussed at any other blog, any other thing. If someone backdooring, this just happens. We're talking about theft. We're talking about FedEx drivers who have been convicted, who have been arrested, who have, again, they got their trade. And with the most of us, Tony, you know how it is. Once you eat a little bit, you get greedy. And I'm talking about, it's months and months of trails of these guys doing what they do, getting caught red-handed. And it's like they got so much evidence on them and nothing they can do but get the cuffs on them and call it a day. But I can tell you, there are a lot of managers at stores that know the trend, and they're like, I know which ones are missing, file this claim, call it a day. Or you get some FedEx drivers that won't take the whole 36, but they'll take 12, they'll take 18. Like it's gotten to that point. So I just want to put that out there, because everything I saw about backdooring and why everybody crying and we have to be ethical and talk about this and everyone knows everyone's to benefit from this. Like, nah, we're talking about theft right now. We're talking about stealing. We're talking about arrests being made, because there's a middle part of when the things are shipped to the stores and not to the stores. And most managers now, if you are a local person or you have a relationship with them, they'll tell you about it, but it's not advertised as much. But a lot of FedEx drivers that have thousands of dollars, but they pay for it in the long run. And is it really worth it? So you see a kid coming into any kind of store with that kind of inventory, you might want to think twice. Say, did that really go to a store?
So,
and how did that get out of the store?
So I'm gonna do my Wendy, like, so like it's breaking news. I've witnessed this before. All right. So let me give you my Wendy, insider report that says I've witnessed before. So just also keep in mind that, level up beyond the FedEx, and let's talk about the freight carriers. All right. The real truck drivers. All right. That's where the stuff is happening. I've witnessed this. I have seen where products those trucks have been intercepted, and it looks very purposeful. So without going into too much detail, I will say that the 2 markets were Atlanta and Chicago. And the biggest hit was Chicago. All right. And I will tell you what the product was. They were Prada shoes going to an urban retailer. You know what I mean? And once they found out that those high-end shoes were going into that store, the interception looking like Deion Sanders on the highway, because they was picking those trucks off, and it didn't take them. The stores weren't even open for a full year. Like new market, new stores. You don't know who we are. They figured it out pretty quick. And some of those stores got hurt because in certain locations, it was more of an emphasis. And I've talked about this, about Nike in particular, saying if we're oversaturated, like too many stores in the proximity, then you as a new store can't have Nike. And that was the case at some of those locations, which why those locations didn't make it all the way, because we couldn't have Nike until you prove yourself for the first year, and then you reapply, and then you would also, now we know to have all these other shoes in there. Now we're going to have higher end. We didn't have products in all the stores and all markets or whatever, but that was, at that time, those products, those American Cup, those things were like water for club goers. It was like the uniform for a certain market. So that being said, the highs and the lows, and we had them, and they were picking those things off. And like, I would just remember the loss prevention, exercises and all the things that you had to do to gives you budget for some of that stuff, but it's the shrinkage part. It's not the whole truck intercepted that then you had to do some stuff like it was the Ozarks or something and send the placebo truck to catch them trying to catch you. You know what I'm saying? And I was like, this is trafficking now. Just think about it. I just made an Ozark reference, so everybody that watches that, but just think about how they would send the dummy cars on some of the missions when they were trying to test and see who was watching and who wasn't. Like, or send a drone to do it. You know what I mean? But that story is like well over 10, 12 years old. Might be 15 years old, but you know what I'm saying? But it really happened. So yes, it's always got to be mindful of those things. You know what I mean? Because yes, and then just for our audience, so they're clear before we get to the end of this episode, and y'all still don't know what we're talking about. We are talking about the Jordan 1 lost and found shoes that people were sought after, and it was just some ambiguity on the release dates and where they're going to be available. So as soon as they start popping up in random places, it's just like what? And I was just like, is this some twisted strategy? Because it's really the lost and found ones. So, and then because it comes with a card that looks like an old purchase order, and it was just like, oops, we found some extra, so here you go. So I was just like, are y'all like trying to bring back Backdooring or something just to make it seem like the lost and found was found, and then this is how you get I'm giving you that way too much credit that's the real thing, but all jokes aside, like, you got to think about all of those things. You know what I mean? So again, we just want, don't let your passion outweigh your common sense. You want something, but again, this is why we give you clarity over popularity, so that you know how to buy, how to be patient, when to be patient, what questions to ask, and some fugazi activity when you see it in front of your face. And this backdooring or this whatever they say this is, it's not that. You know what I mean? Like, and again, that's why I got sensationalized over time, because it's almost like we're not putting emphasis on the relationships that you need to have. We've been telling you that since day one of the Soul Material Podcast, all about your relationships, right? So put more value in relationships, and you won't have to worry about getting backdoor and all this other stuff. Unfortunately, the rules change, so stores don't have the leeway that they used to, but some of them do. Some of them still do. All right? So go find them. You might want to start with your local skate and SB shops, because you can have relationships with them more than anybody else. But you'd have to actually like dunks in SB dunks long before, people told you to like them. You know what I mean? So,
and then they were dead, and then they're back.
Yeah. So another story for another day, but just that point is the art of those type of retailers, those mom and pop brick and mortar stores, they really only exist at the autonomy level, at the SB level nowadays, you know what I mean? But there's still a lot going on, you know what I mean? So that you can still have relationships, so that when stuff is coming. I get it, it's not the Foot Locker raffle or whatever, but there once was a time where there was no raffle. And yes, that's like you said, where people are lined up, that was the most frustrating thing, to be someone in line, and then you literally see somebody else like just wheel out or whatever, or like, it depends on if the line is inside the mall or outside the mall. But if you're in proximity and you can see in the store while the lights are on, and you are standing in line, they didn't even put the gates up, and it's like, how do people get inside to purchase it when the gate is still up? Like, come on, you know what I mean? So backdooring. The last part that I just wanted to touch base on, the other sensationalized backdooring, is we talked about some of those, is when, certain retailers will actually meet up with the collaborator or something, and then they do the handshake deal at a hotel or something. You know what I'm saying? And then all of a sudden, then that was the shipment coming in. So either they unload right there, or that was the agreement for the shipment to come to you and not come to other people. So those things are also happening where, so some of your, these, especially the younger ones, I don't care who you are, you're the plug. All right. Stop it. You know what I mean? You're paying an acceptance. You got somebody else's money or credit to get you started. All right. And then you are spending an absorbent amount of money just to acquire this stuff, just to make $50 on each shoe. But when you spend $1 million and you make 50 on every one, on every pair of shoe, you are making money, but relative, like you should be making a lot more if you actually had real accounts and real, you're doing it for the clout, and you're doing it for, what people tell you are, because the plugs don't really want to be known if you're really like that. You know what I mean? So shout out to those plugs that are in the sneaker business that you know about. I'm not even going to name the names, but some of y'all got your own store in your own house or your penthouse or something, and you got people coming over shopping in your own house, in the living room. You know what I mean? Because you really got connections and you really got it like that. So I know some celebrity clients, but I'll let them be anonymous. If you know, you know what I mean? But stuff like that does go on. So all these people talking loud, they're usually the ones not really doing it. All right. So there you go. Clarity over popularity. That's your sneaker business talk. Any final words from the OG before we wrap up?
Not at all, man. Just what you just said to me of the Gangstar classic, just to get a rep. And that's what this is all about now. It seems it's just to get a rep. So I will get my shoe how I get it, but game is changing so much, but just how people are trying to educate others. It's just for all. So again, we got to clear it up, because there's backdooring and then there's theft, and there's no fine line between it. Just not, period.
There you go. Because that's why we're giving it to you, because that's our job. We're not saying, oh, people told us to talk about it, so, we're obligated. No, we're giving you what you need. It's almost like those other sites don't realize that you're not giving the people what they want. That's why they're asking you to talk about different stuff. But here, again, we're going to tell you what you need to do. That's why we're the podcast you cheer for. So appreciate it. And we'll sign off and see you next time. So for the Soul Material Podcast, it's T Mark the Street Shark
And OGEO.
All right, signing off. See you next time.